So Ray Robinson has joined my Patreon at the comic relief tier level, which is $5 a month, and you get to request a film of your choosing for me to cover. I said spoiler free on there, but I'm not sure. Maybe I'll do spoilers. I'm gonna definitely do them here because Ray is a good friend, and he's been a patron forever, and he just damn deserves it. So we are covering Prophecy from 1979, aka Man Bear Pig. It's what I couldn't help but think about this entire fucking movie as soon as it was revealed what this monster was. Spoilers, obviously, people. But yeah, I don't know if you guys are familiar with the South Park episode of Man Bear Pig, but the way that Al Gore explains Man Bear Pig, it very much, and then even when you see the Man Bear Pig in South Park, it reminds me of this. I have to wonder if this had something to do with that. Pretty funny stuff. Half bear, half man pig. All right, so it starts off with some dogs. They're in pursuit, and the one even jumps off a cliff. It's so hot on this thing's trail. They're going crazy. Then these guys are hanging there holding the dog, and then the dog is being like yanked on like they're fishing out there. They get yanked off, and then well, the guys aren't getting yanked off. Jesus Christ, we're starting off like this. And then all of them are killed, and then there's this like light music that is display, is just being played over the display of their dead bodies, and then it moves into, the title card there. I dig it. I like the opening. I thought it was fun. And then, we move in and we find out that Adrian is in this movie. I saw her name in the opening credits, and I was like, oh shit, Adrian's in this? How cool. So she's pregnant. She doesn't want to tell her husband because she thinks that he's just too in his head to deal with it. Guess she should have told him. And so her husband here works for the EPA, and he's brought in to assess this whole area because they want to chop down these trees. The natives are going nuts. They think they have a claim here that one side has over the other, and they're just trying to get this all sorted out. So they're brought in, and they're being, it feels like because they're being shown around by the lumber mill, the guy who runs the lumber mill over there, that it's a little biased. Like, I don't know. I don't feel like he's even brought in to hear the natives' propositions or their points or whatever. When he meets them, it's really mostly when they're blocking the road and whatnot. So I felt like if legally the natives had some form of a claim or something that would make them fly out there, otherwise they would just bring in the cops and be like, get the fuck out of the way. And I felt like they should have been there too and been like, hey, this is our side of it. Yes, he does end up talking to them, but when he first meets, it's like when he gets off the plane, he's greeted by, now this doesn't seem unbelievable to me because the lumber mill is the one with the money and would be trying to kind of buy his vote here. So it did seem genuine, but this film has, kind of a timeless story to it. It very much applies to today. It's all about poisoning the environment and the repercussions of doing so. And it's a sad movie because, yet again, this is another thing like a Cujo. These things aren't really villains. They're just kind of products of their environment. Cujo was bit and he had rabies, so he attacked. This man bear pig was infected, by mercury, and it made him into this creature, this monster with murderous rage built into his DNA, against his will. So these aren't really technically monsters, but it is what it is there. All right. So they're brought in. The natives say that there's a Bigfoot out there. Obviously, we know that's not what it is. But man, you wish it was freaking Bigfoot after this thing comes out. I think the bear in this movie Maybe some people will think it's cheesy looking, whatever. I thought it was terrifying. I seriously thought the thing was so scary, the way it moved, the way it looked, the it's so enormous. It's just bear is just something to be reckoned with. You can't even. Oh my God! Imagine going up against that thing. Terrifying. And so, oh man, when you see that shot, another thing about the environment. I mean, I'm not going to try to harp too much on this stuff, but when they like are flying by and they see the trees, the lumber that's out in the water, and there's just thousands and thousands and thousands of trees that have been collected together, and they're all out on the water. Oh my God, it's heartbreaking to look at. It's just like, God, people are suck sometimes. Anyway, but yeah, like so, this character John, right? Yeah, I think it's John. The Native American who's played by Armand Asante. Fuck is his name? Armand Asante, which I always remember because obviously I can't remember how to say his name that quickly, but I always remember his name because of the Santa Claus with freaking Tim. I'm blanking on names. Holy shit, Tim Allen. Jesus Christ, what's wrong with me? If you guys have ever seen the Santa Claus with Tim Allen, he pulls up the list and like one of the first names he sees there is Armand Asante, which I never understood because it's like on the first page, and isn't this supposed to be in alphabetical order? And it's like every fucking buddy's name, and why is Armand Asante's name on there? He's an adult. I thought it was just kids on that list, and if it isn't, why? Yeah, as I said, it's in alphabetical order. Okay, I'm talking about the Santa Claus. It just seems like AR or AM or AS, sorry. If you're going off of last names, why would that be on the list? All right, stay on track here, people. But yeah, so he's there, and he is not letting them pass. They have this big dispute. They're coming at one another, and he pulls out an axe. The other guy pulls out a chainsaw, and they go at each other, and there's this big axe versus chainsaw battle, which if you're going to go into a battle, axe versus chainsaw is the weapon you definitely want, and of course that's what ends up happening here. He gets bested by the chainsaw, thrown on the ground, and he's willing to die. He doesn't want to stop. He's like, no, cut me up. I don't give a shit. And it's only because of his wife there, or whatever, that I think that's his wife. It could be his sister for all I know. But Armand Asante is not Native American. That wasn't even close. Did they even try to find a Native American person to play this role? Seriously? I thought that was funny. I came out and I was like, that Italian dude? Really? A native? Holy shit. Better than Burgess Meredith, I guess. But yeah, I mean, he is willing to die. And then, so the guy's out there fishing later, and he sees this salmon that's like enormous. It's just ridiculously huge. I think it's like forced perspective to make it look the way it does, but man, that thing is crazy big. And he goes back and he makes the fish, and he tells his wife, once he realizes, I thought the acting in this from her too, especially, was excellent in the moment where she realizes, like, if you ingest any of the fish and you're pregnant, your baby's gonna be fucked up. And just her freak out because she doesn't want to tell him. I feel like she should have told him in that moment, but she's just kind of having a panic attack. And then when he tells her, like, it's too much, I think he does. I think she tries to say something, and then someone comes and interrupts it. It might even be the raccoon, which he throws in the fire. That was great. That was a gnarly little battle there. This is a really good movie. Like, it might be silly in moments or something to most people, but I actually was really into it. I actually really, really enjoyed it. I thought it was a really well-made flick. Then there's these kids that are out there in the woods, and they're playing the radio, like booming the radio loud. It's like, did you miss the point of being out in nature? I'm surprised the dad even let it happen. I was like, turn that shit off. And I thought it was funny how the Native Americans in this seem to be so disconnected from our world. he's like, ooh, this land's, and he's like, the United States, and he's like, fuck all that. And it's like, so these guys are out there, they live in the wilderness, they live in freaking teepees, but he has a hearing aid and like prescription glasses. Like clearly he's going into town for medical reasons. It just and they are wearing like designer clothes. Like some of them, that chick's shirt and whatnot. I was like, so do you go into town? Are you part of America, or are you still rejecting that notion? I found that pretty funny. And so yeah, we find out things grow big here. Holy shit, do they? They also find like a tadpole that's like this freaking big. And yeah, timber mill is using mercury. Everything has mercury poisoning, which I already said is really sad. And oh man, so when Ray was recommending this to me, I was making a joke like, man, I have to rent this for $3. This is bullshit. It was pretty funny because he was like, well, the sleeping bag kill in this is worth the price of admission on its own. And when I think of sleeping bag kills, I of course think of Friday the 13th Part 7 or Friday the 13th Part 10. Either one. Both have great sleeping bag kills. And oh man, I don't know, this one's pretty funny. This one was pretty damn funny. This kid who's completely wrapped up in his sleeping bag to his face like this. I don't know if like someone has to zip you up inside, or if there's like a thing inside and he would have had to bring his arms up to bring it down. But however, this kid is incapacitated and he has to jump up and start trying to hop away inside a sleeping bag that's covering his face, and the bear comes out and just swats him, and he goes like, it's like sped up, you know, like car chases in movies when they're trying to make it look faster, but it's sped up, and this kid's like knocked end over end, and the body flies and hits a tree, and freaking like feathers from inside the sleeping bag just blow up and go everywhere. It would have been great if it was blood too. I don't think there was much of that, but there was a lot of feathers. The way it looks, I laughed out loud, really freaking loud. It was funny because it was so ridiculous looking. Just end over end, boom, into the tree. Funny stuff. So he was right. That was worth the price of admission, but I actually enjoyed the whole rest of the movie as well, so it wasn't just that I dug. Yeah, there's this punch of this guy gets hit in the nose, and it's like a close-up. It's almost like POV, and the blood. Yeah, it is. I think the you kind of see the fist is like almost a POV of the fist, and it hits this guy in the nose, and blood flies off of his nose into the screen. It's actually a pretty cool shot. And of course, the Millers are trying to pin the murders on the OPs, as they call them, the original people, or as they wanted to call themselves at this point. The deformed creatures that they find in the nets and they pull out and they're trying to keep alive and they're screaming and whatnot. Oh man, that was sad. That almost rivaled the freaking dog in The Fly too. One of the saddest things ever. If you've seen that movie. If you haven't seen that movie, just skip over that scene. You're going to freaking want to commit suicide. It's so damn depressing. And just can't keep saying it enough. I have it written down here like a couple times. Like, the bear is just terrifying. It's so scary looking. Man, bear pig. And Dr. Copper from The Thing is the guy who runs the mill, who's totally full of shit, but he runs off to do something. He should have stuck with them, although he probably still would have died. Although he's missing his nose ring in this one. Really weird thing that he has in The Thing, which is only 3 years later after this movie. A nose ring. Such a weird thing. I never noticed it until I got the Blu-ray, but it's clear as day on the Blu-ray. Now they get in the car and they're driving and they're going through, and the bear comes out and knocks it over. It feels like an amusement park ride. The way it's shot, the way it looks like they're on an amusement park ride and they're driving through. It's like the Indiana Jones ride at Disneyland or something. They're like on the car, and you're just waiting for the moment. You're like, all right, the bear's gonna pop out and knock him over. It feels like the Matterhorn at Disneyland too. He's like swiping at you as you drive past it. It felt like an amusement park ride. So didn't feel realistic in the slightest. And of course the scene's not realistic, but it felt amusement parky. And the baby freaking that they find, the little baby, the deformed little baby monster thing, attacks freaking Adrian's neck and is like biting it out. I don't. I'd have to look for it, but I don't really remember like her bleeding from the neck from that point. But it seemed to be chomping into her pretty good. I'd have to go back and look to see if she actually has bleeding and whatnot on her neck from that point on. I don't know. The old man that gets attacked, he's out on the shoreline, and the bear, and they get in the boat and they're going across and whatnot. And he like look back and it's from a distance, and the bear has him like up in the air, and I think it's in his mouth, and he's just it looks insane. It looks almost like stop motion animation. I don't know, but it looks hilarious. It looks awesome. It looks terrifying and but also hilarious. I thought that was great. We get a decapitation in that scene. He rips the guy's head off, so that was good. So we get a decap. It's a pretty violent movie for the time. And then they're watching as the bear goes in the water, and they think like it drowned, and they're just sitting there, and then they see the bubbles, and then the bubbles are getting closer, and they just keep sitting there, and I'm like, run, maybe? What do you think? Maybe hightail it out of there? But no, let's just keep waiting. But then it bops up out of the water, and they run to the house, and they yell out, "Let's barricade!" And I laughed out loud. I laughed at the unintentional pun there. Barricade the door. So he goes in the house. He finds 2 bullets, and then the freaking bear comes and he just like knocks the house down. He just like he's the freaking the wolf from the 3 Pigs. He's just like little pigs, and he just fucking swats this house down. First he swats the roof off, then he shoots him. Then he comes back and knocks the whole damn house down. Then John tries to step out there with his bow and arrow. It's like, who the hell do you think you are, Hawkeye? And he just bats John, and he goes flying like a mile, and his face is mangled. So he gets his ass knocked. This guy has one hell of a punch. He's got the punch of the bear and grizzly, who can knock the head off of a horse. He's even stronger than that bear. But then this guy has like a total freaking Conan the Barbarian moment, where he just jumps up and he grabs the thing and he stabs it in its eye, and it's bleeding. Fucking blood is just pouring out of this thing's eye, and then falls in the water, and he grabs an arrow and he jumps back on it and just starts stabbing it. Although when he's stabbing it, it feels very light, and it doesn't feel like it's penetrating him at all. I don't feel like he does any extra damage once he jumps on him in the water. I found that to be really silly, hilarious. And then they decide like, all right, we're out of here. So they get in the helicopter, and the wife, I guess, is infected. Her baby is like growing inside. There's a freaking, the cover of the movie is some crazy looking creature in an egg or something. Maybe that's the womb. Maybe that's her kid. Maybe that's an ultrasound of her baby. That's how I'm going to take it. And then boom, of course, another one pops up. You only killed one of thousands of us out here. So there's another beast out there. It's not the same one. There's another freaking beast. So there you go, Ray. The Prophecy. Fun flick, man. Thanks for the recommendation. One I've seen the poster of many, many times. I dug it. So yeah, if you want me to cover a movie, you can look at my Patreon. The cheapest one is $1. That'll get you a shout out, and $5 will get you a movie to recommend. And so yeah, you'll see it in the link below if you want to check it out and recommend a movie for me to cover. But yeah, that was a fun one. All right, buddy.